California is known for its sunshine, its beaches, and the glitz of Hollywood. But beyond the glamour and beauty lies a darker truth. This is a state filled with haunted prisons, cursed hotels, and ghost towns that still echo with the voices of the past. The gold rush brought fortune to many, but it also brought tragedy. Miners died in tunnels, towns burned to ash, and entire communities vanished overnight. Some say their spirits never left. Others claim the land itself holds their restless energy. In California, footsteps are heard in empty hallways, laughter drifts through abandoned theaters, and shadows move where no one should be standing. These are not just stories told to scare children. These are real places you can still visit today. Some of these hauntings are so chilling that ghost hunters have sworn never to return. Cold spots linger where tragedy struck. Doors slam shut on their own. And sometimes, if you are unlucky, you may find yourself staring into the face of a spirit that refuses to be forgotten. Tonight, we will uncover the top 10 most haunted places in California. From ships that never rest, to prisons that still hold their dead, to mansions and hotels where the past is trapped forever. The Golden State may shine in the daylight, but in the darkness it reveals its most terrifying secrets. Are you ready to walk through its haunted history? Then hold your courage close because the countdown begins now. Haunted place number 1. The Queen Mary, Long Beach. The Queen Mary rests in Long Beach as a grand ocean liner frozen in time, but behind her glamorous past is a legacy of death and restless spirits. Once celebrated for her luxury, the ship was later converted into a World War II troop carrier, known as the Grey Ghost. Thousands of soldiers crossed oceans aboard her, and not all of them returned. Today, visitors board expecting a museum or hotel, yet many walk away shaken, claiming they encountered something that should not exist. The first place that draws ghost hunters is the first-class swimming pool. The water has long been drained, yet guests claim to see wet footprints appear across the dry tiles. Some have followed the trail of prints only to hear the giggle of a little girl echoing in the empty chamber. She is called Jackie, a spirit said to have drowned in the pool decades ago. At night, visitors describe hearing splashes and water dripping even though the pool is bone dry. Some swear they have seen a small figure peering through the glass windows of the pool deck, only to vanish when approached. But the pool is only the beginning. The ship's engine and boiler rooms are suffocatingly dark, a labyrinth of metal and steam where tragedy struck. In one corridor, known as Door 13, a young sailor was crushed to death during a routine drill. To this day, his shadow is said to linger near the heavy watertight doors. Crew members who worked on board in later years admitted to seeing him in their peripheral vision, dressed in greasy coveralls, before he disappears into the steel. Guests walking through the boiler rooms often feel a sharp chill, and some report that their flashlights flicker and die as if drained by unseen hands. In the staterooms, where wealthy travelers once sipped champagne and laughed at masquerade balls, spirits continue their own nightly gatherings. Guests who stay overnight in the hotel have reported waking to the sound of footsteps pacing outside their door, yet the hallway is always empty. Others have woken in the middle of the night to see the figure of a man in a suit sitting silently in the corner of their room, watching them until he fades into the darkness. Mirrors in certain suites are said to hold more than reflections. Visitors claim they catch a glimpse of figures standing behind them, only for the glass to clear when they turn around. The ship also carries a suffocating weight from her wartime service. As the Grey Ghost, she ferried soldiers across the Atlantic, and countless men suffered in the cramped bunks deep below deck. Some died before ever reaching the battlefield, their final breaths taken on the Queen Mary. Paranormal investigators believe the cries and whispers heard in the lower levels come from these restless spirits, still trapped in the vessel that carried them to their fate. Walking through the Queen Mary after dark is like entering a living mausoleum. The air grows heavy, the temperature drops, and faint knocks echo through the walls. Some describe hearing faint music as if a ghostly orchestra is playing in the grand ballroom, while others swear they have smelled perfume drifting through hallways where no one walks. Security guards who patrol at night have admitted they refuse to enter certain areas alone, because they hear footsteps following them in perfect rhythm, even though no one else is there. The Queen Mary is more than a historic relic. She is a collection of stories etched into steel and wood, stories of laughter, sorrow, war, and death. Every creak of her frame reminds visitors that she is alive with memory, and every whisper suggests that the past refuses to stay buried. To step on board is to walk side by side with the dead, and for those who linger too long, the ship offers more than history. It offers a chilling invitation to join her endless voyage. Number 2. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco Bay. Alcatraz rises from the fog of San Francisco Bay like a fortress, a slab of rock that once held some of the most dangerous men in American history. For decades it was the prison of last resort, a place where escape was thought impossible and where hope was stripped away as quickly as freedom. The walls are heavy with memory, and even though the cells stand empty now, the spirits of Alcatraz have never truly left. Visitors step off the ferry expecting a tour, but many walk away convinced that something still lives within the crumbling concrete. The cell blocks stretch out like endless rows of cages, each one telling its own story of despair. Cold winds whistle through the iron bars, and it is not unusual for guests to feel sudden icy drafts on their necks, even when the air outside is warm. Guides say these are not simple gusts but cold spots, pockets of energy tied to restless souls. People have reported standing in front of an empty cell and suddenly feeling as though someone unseen has stepped right up behind them. When they turn around, they find only shadows stretching across the walls. Cell 14D, a solitary confinement chamber, has earned its own reputation. Known as the Hole, it was a place where inmates were kept in complete darkness for days or even weeks. Some prisoners left the cell broken, others never left at all. Today, visitors who step inside describe overwhelming dread. Some refuse to go further than a few steps before they feel as though hands are closing around their throat. Tourists have claimed to see glowing eyes staring at them from the far end of the pitch-black cell, only to vanish when a flashlight is turned on. One story tells of a prisoner who screamed for hours about a creature in the dark with him. By morning he was dead, his body twisted in terror. Guards dismissed it as madness, but many believe something inhuman still prowls the hole. The prison hospital is another place where the veil between worlds feels thin. Rusted gurneys sit abandoned, surgical rooms echo with silence, and shadows drift across the tiled floors. Guests who explore this section say they hear the faint clang of chains dragging along the hallways. Others swear they hear screams, muffled and distant, as though the walls themselves are replaying the agony of the past. The smell of disinfectant lingers even though the hospital has not been used for decades. Some report seeing figures in hospital gowns moving just out of sight, only to vanish when followed. The shower room echoes with the sound of dripping water, though the pipes have long been dry. Former guards admitted that they avoided this section when alone because they could hear voices whispering through the walls. Visitors have described sudden waves of nausea, dizziness, and cold chills so intense they cut their tour short. It is said the suffering of inmates has seeped into the very stone, replaying itself endlessly for those sensitive enough to feel it. Even the island itself carries a heavy presence. Native tribes once avoided it, calling it cursed ground. During its time as a military prison and later as a federal penitentiary, countless men wasted away behind its walls. Executions, suicides, violent murders, and failed escape attempts have all left scars on the island. On foggy nights, the cries of prisoners are said to drift across the bay. Fishermen have reported hearing screams carried on the wind, though no one is there. Some even claim to see ghostly figures pacing the cliffs, dressed in prison uniforms that disappeared decades ago. Perhaps the most unsettling reports come from former guards and staff. Many spoke of footsteps echoing down empty corridors, cell doors clanging shut when no one had touched them, and phantom gunshots ringing out in the night. Security officers who patrolled after the prison closed confessed they sometimes heard men weeping in the dark. One even swore he saw a group of prisoners in the yard during a night shift, only for them to fade away before his eyes. Alcatraz is no longer a prison, yet it remains a cage, not for the living but for the dead. The despair, the violence, and the hopelessness that filled its cells have soaked into the stone. Every scream that once rang through its halls still echoes faintly today. Visitors who dare to walk the corridors alone quickly learn that the rock never forgets. Its ghosts are not just memories. They are inmates still serving sentences in the shadows, waiting for anyone brave enough or foolish enough to wander too close. Number 3. Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, Los Angeles. The Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel stands as a glittering monument to old Hollywood, a place where glamour and tragedy have always walked hand in hand. Built in 1927, it was a playground for the rich and famous, a stage where legends were born and where some refused to take their final bow. The lights of Hollywood Boulevard flicker just beyond its doors, Yet inside, shadows cling to the hallways, whispers drift through empty rooms, and mirrors seem to hold more than reflections. Marilyn Monroe once lived here in her early years of stardom, staying in a suite that overlooked the pool. She may have checked out in life, but in death she never left. Guests who stay in her former room often report seeing her reflection in the full-length mirror. They describe a fleeting figure with blonde curls and a tragic gaze staring back at them, only to vanish when they blink. Some visitors refuse to enter the suite at all, claiming they feel watched the moment they step inside. The air grows heavy, the lights dim slightly, and the mirror seems to breathe as if it remembers the actress who once gazed into it. But Marilyn is not the only one who lingers here. The sound of phantom music often drifts through the corridors. Trumpet notes rise and fall, carried as if from a distant room. The hotel records show that jazz musician Montgomery Clift stayed here while filming From Here to Eternity. He practiced his trumpet endlessly in room 928, a corner suite. Today, guests who stay there say they are woken at night by muffled trumpet sounds, even though no one is playing. Some report hearing footsteps pacing the floor, exactly as Clift did while rehearsing his lines. The rhythm of his restless spirit has never left. The Blossom Ballroom is another haunted heart of the hotel. It once hosted the very first Academy Awards in 1929, a night of glamour, applause, and ambition. But when the crowd is gone, the room is not silent. Staff who work late describe laughter echoing through the dark ballroom. Glasses clink, music plays faintly, and the rustle of gowns sweeps across the floor. Yet the ballroom stands empty, lit only by a single chandelier swinging as though moved by invisible dancers. The party, it seems, never truly ended. In the hallways, guests have described cold spots that appear without warning. Some feel the brush of unseen hands against their shoulders. Others hear whispers that call their names. Elevators are known to stop on random floors, doors sliding open to reveal nothing but darkness. One night, a security guard patrolling the upper floors swore he saw a man in a tuxedo standing at the end of the hall. When the guard approached, the figure smiled faintly, then dissolved into thin air. The poolside cabanas have their own share of stories. Visitors lounging late at night sometimes see a woman in 1930s swimwear slip into the pool, only for her to vanish beneath the water without a ripple. Others hear splashes in the still water when no one is there. Hotel employees admit that they avoid the pool after midnight, claiming it feels like unseen eyes follow them with every step. What makes the Roosevelt different is that its ghosts are not angry, but they are persistent. They are Hollywood's eternal audience, celebrities who refuse to leave the stage, and echoes of laughter and music that will never die. Each room, each hallway, each shadow seems charged with the memory of a golden era, one where fame burned bright, but its flames left scars that time could not erase. Those who visit the Roosevelt come seeking luxury and history, yet many leave with something far more chilling. They leave with the memory of a fleeting figure in a mirror, the sound of a trumpet in the dead of night, or the laughter of a phantom crowd that refuses to fade. At the Roosevelt, the spotlight never goes out, and the ghosts of Hollywood are still waiting for their encore. Number 4. Preston Castle, Ione. On the edge of the small town of Ione, California, Preston Castle rises like a Gothic monument, its red brick towers looming against the sky. Built in 1894, it was once the Preston School of Industry, a reform school meant to discipline troubled boys. But inside its vast stone walls, discipline often turned into cruelty, and hope was crushed beneath the weight of punishment. The building closed decades ago, yet those who dare to enter its decaying halls claim the cries of the past still echo through every corridor. The boys who lived here were sent for correction, but many never found reform, only suffering. Staff were known for harsh punishments, locking children in isolation rooms or worse. Today, visitors report hearing phantom screams of boys begging for mercy. Some have captured recordings of faint voices calling out from the shadows, desperate whispers that chill the blood. Cold spots linger in empty cells, and doors slam without reason, as though unseen hands are still enforcing discipline long after death. But the darkest haunting belongs not to the boys but to a woman. In 1950, a housekeeper named Anna Corbin was brutally murdered inside Preston Castle. She was found bludgeoned, her body hidden in the basement. Though suspects were tried, no one was ever convicted. To this day, her restless spirit is said to roam the castle. Investigators have reported feeling overwhelming sadness in the basement, where her life was ended. Some have seen a shadowy female figure drifting through the halls, her presence lingering in the air like a cold hand on the back of the neck. The castle's grand staircase is another hot spot. Visitors climbing its creaking steps often stop halfway, frozen by the sensation that someone is right behind them. A few have turned and seen a boy's pale face peering from the banister, only for it to vanish in an instant. Others hear running footsteps racing up and down the stairs, echoing like a game played in another time. But no one is there. The infirmary is equally unsettling. Patients once endured treatments that today would be unthinkable. Some visitors claim to smell antiseptic and hear the clatter of medical instruments when the room is empty. Ghost hunters have reported capturing photos of faint figures in hospital gowns, standing in the corners, watching silently before fading away. At night, the castle is at its most terrifying. The long corridors stretch into darkness, and the silence is broken only by the occasional knock or cry. Flashlights flicker unexpectedly, batteries drain, and shadows dart across the walls. Some who stay too long describe feeling an oppressive weight on their chest, as if the castle itself is pressing down on them, feeding on their fear. Locals say the castle is cursed, that the cruelty and bloodshed seeped into the very stones. They believe the restless energy of the boys and the spirit of Anna Corbin are bound to the building, unable to escape. Even when restoration work began, construction crews reported tools vanishing, doors locking by themselves, and the sound of children laughing in the dead of night. Today, Preston Castle stands partly abandoned, partly preserved as a relic of California's past. But those who tour its halls rarely leave unchanged. Some walk out pale and shaken, claiming they felt eyes on them every step of the way. Others whisper that they brought something back with them, a shadow that follows, a whisper in their ear when the lights go out. In Preston Castle, the past never rests. The screams of boys still linger, and the spirit of a murdered woman still searches for justice. It is a place where cruelty, tragedy, and restless souls are forever trapped, echoing in the brick walls of a castle that will never forget. Number 5. Winchester Mystery House, San Jose. In the heart of San Jose stands one of the strangest and most haunted mansions in America. The Winchester Mystery House, a sprawling Victorian labyrinth with hundreds of rooms, staircases that climb into ceilings and doors that open to sudden drops, was built by Sarah Winchester, the widow of firearm magnate William Wirt Winchester. She believed that the countless souls killed by the Winchester rifle would come for her, and the only way to keep them at bay was to build without end. Day and night, construction echoed through the halls. Carpenters worked in shifts, sometimes hammering into the early hours of the morning. Sarah demanded staircases that led nowhere, hallways that doubled back, and windows built inside walls. Every strange design was not madness but protection, a way to confuse the restless spirits that haunted her. She never stopped building, believing that if she did, death would claim her. Visitors to the mansion today report hearing the same footsteps that tormented Sarah. Late at night, in the endless hallways, heavy boots echo across wooden floors, though no one is there. Doors open and close on their own, and whispers rise from empty rooms. Many have claimed to feel the icy brush of unseen hands guiding or pushing them toward dead ends, as though the ghosts are still trying to find their way out of the maze. The seance room is the heart of the haunting. Sarah often entered it at midnight, summoning spirits for guidance on how to continue building. Some visitors say they have felt cold air rush past them there, followed by faint chanting, as though Sarah's secret meetings are still being held behind the veil of time. Paranormal investigators have recorded faint voices calling her name, begging her not to stop construction. Perhaps the eeriest encounters happen on the staircases that rise and then vanish into ceilings. People climbing them have felt sudden pressure at their backs, as though pushed by unseen forces. Others report hearing the creak of steps behind them, but when they turn, the staircase is empty. The ghosts, it seems, are still wandering the strange paths Sarah designed to trap them. The mansion itself feels alive. Windows rattle in rooms with no draft. Chandeliers sway without movement. Some claim to see Sarah herself, a small figure in black, drifting through the halls with a lantern, endlessly checking the progress of her eternal construction. The Winchester Mystery House remains one of the most unsettling sights in California, a place where architecture and the supernatural are woven together. Every hallway leads deeper into mystery, and every room echoes with the weight of Sarah's fear. For many who enter, the question is not whether the house is haunted, but whether you will leave with something following behind you. And while Sarah tried to build her way out of a curse, there is another place in California where escape was truly impossible, a prison surrounded by icy waters, where men and spirits remain trapped forever. Number 6. Hotel del Coronado, San Diego. The Hotel del Coronado stands as one of California's most iconic seaside resorts, a sprawling Victorian masterpiece of white towers and red roofs, bathed in sunlight by day, but steeped in shadows at night. Among its many famous guests and golden memories lies a story that refuses to fade, the haunting of Kate Morgan. In 1892, Kate checked into the hotel under an assumed name. She was described as a beautiful young woman with a quiet sadness in her eyes. For 5 days she waited for a man who never came. Guests recalled seeing her wandering the grand hallways, standing alone on the veranda, or staring at the waves as though she was searching for something. On the 5th day she was found dead on the hotel steps, a gunshot wound ending her life. The newspapers called it suicide. But some whispered of foul play. Her spirit, however, never left. Guests who stay in room 3327, the room she occupied, report an oppressive atmosphere. Lights flicker, the temperature drops suddenly, and drawers slide open without being touched. Some say they awaken in the night to find a figure in Victorian dress at the foot of the bed, her face pale and sorrowful, before she vanishes into the air. Elsewhere in the hotel, Kate is seen gliding silently down the grand staircase, or pacing the hallways as if still waiting for the man who abandoned her. On stormy nights, her ghost is spotted along the beach, her black dress whipping in the wind, her figure fading into the surf. Guests have followed her down the sand only to find empty footprints trailing off into the water. Staff members confirm the haunting, saying that Kate's presence is strongest during the anniversary of her death. Objects are moved, doors lock themselves, and faint sobs echo through the corridors. One housekeeper even swears she felt someone tugging at her uniform while she cleaned the infamous room, though she was entirely alone. Kate Morgan's ghost is not violent, but sorrowful, trapped in an endless cycle of waiting and grieving. Some believe she lingers because the truth of her death was never told. Others think she is forever bound to the place where her heart was broken. The Hotel del Coronado remains a place of beauty by day and melancholy by night, where the ocean's roar carries with it the whispers of a woman who could never leave. And while Kate Morgan's story is one of sorrow, there are places in California where hauntings are far more aggressive, where spirits lash out at those who dare to enter. Number 7. Whaley House, San Diego. The Whaley House, standing in San Diego's Old Town, is often called the most haunted house in America, a title it has earned through tragedy and restless spirits. Built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley, it was meant to be a symbol of prosperity, a grand family home of brick and fine design. But from the very beginning, darkness took root in its walls. The land itself was cursed before the first stone was laid. It had once been a public gallows, where criminals met their end beneath the hangman's noose. One of the most notorious was Yankee Jim Robinson, who died here in 1852. Witnesses claimed his hanging was botched, his legs kicking and body jerking for nearly an hour before death finally took him. Locals say his spirit still lingers, resentful and restless, pacing the very ground where the house was built. Soon after moving in, the Whaley family began to suffer. Strange noises filled the halls, footsteps echoed on the stairs, and doors slammed without reason. Thomas and his wife Anna reported cold drafts sweeping through rooms, even on the warmest of days. Neighbors whispered that Yankee Jim had returned to torment the family for building on his grave. But worse tragedies awaited. The Whaley family endured unimaginable losses within the house. Their young daughter died of scarlet fever. A son took his own life. Later, one of the Whaley daughters, Violet, shot herself on the property after a failed marriage. Her ghost is still seen drifting through the parlor, a sorrowful figure in a long dress, her face pale, her movements slow as if weighed down by despair. Visitors today often hear the sounds of a woman crying in the upstairs bedrooms, or the faint music of a piano playing by unseen hands. Some feel an icy hand brush against their shoulder. Others glimpse shadowy figures moving along the stairwell, vanishing before their eyes. Even children who enter the house report seeing other children, spectral playmates who smile before fading into nothing. The Whaley House is more than just haunted, it is saturated with grief, each brick and beam holding the pain of those who lived and died there. To walk its halls is to step into the presence of a family that never found peace, and into the grip of Yankee Jim, who never forgave. And yet, while the Whaley House may be cursed by tragedy, there are other places in California where the hauntings feel different, where grandeur and glamour mask spirits who never left. Number 8. Cecil Hotel, Los Angeles. The Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles looms like a shadow over the city, its history soaked in tragedy, mystery, and whispered tales of the supernatural. Built in the 1920s as a glamorous destination for travelers, it quickly fell into decay, and with that decline came a darkness that has never lifted. From the moment you step inside, the atmosphere feels heavy, as though the walls themselves remember every secret, every scream, every final breath. The lobby, though restored, still carries a chill, the kind that clings to your skin and makes you look twice over your shoulder. Guests have reported seeing figures in the upper windows at night, watching silently, even when the rooms they peer from are empty. The Cecil is infamous for its deaths, stories that are as disturbing as they are unexplained. During the mid-20th century, it became a haven for violence, suicides, and unsolved mysteries. Guests leapt from upper floors, their screams echoing down the alleyways. Others never left their rooms alive. Some residents claimed to wake in the night to see dark shadows at the foot of their bed, or to hear the rattling of faucets in the bathroom, followed by the unmistakable sound of choking. But one story cemented the hotel's reputation in modern times. The case of Elisa Lam. In 2013, she vanished within the hotel's maze of hallways and stairwells. Days later, her body was discovered in the rooftop water tank, found only after guests complained of foul-smelling and discolored water. Security footage showed her in an elevator, acting strangely, pressing buttons, peering into the hallway, hiding as if something unseen was pursuing her. Some say she was running from her own mind, others believe something malevolent drove her to her death. To this day, no one can fully explain what happened. The Cecil has been linked to serial killers who once called it home, men who walked its corridors like hunters, choosing victims from the streets below. It is as if the building itself attracts evil, feeding on despair, creating a cycle that repeats over and over. Visitors today claim to feel watched in the elevators, to hear whispers in the hallways, to see figures lingering in the corners of their eyes. And always that feeling of dread, as if the hotel breathes with you, waiting for you to make the wrong turn. The Cecil is not just haunted, it is cursed, an urban labyrinth where the living and the dead walk side by side, where the tragedies of the past refuse to rest. But as terrifying as the Cecil may be, California holds another vessel of hauntings, one that floats quietly in Long Beach, a majestic ship-turned-ghostly prison for spirits of the sea. Number 9. Bodie Ghost Town, Mono County. High in the Sierra Nevada lies Bodie, a town that once thrived during the California gold rush but now stands abandoned, frozen in time. What remains are rows of wooden homes, a crumbling church, and shattered saloons, all preserved in what locals call a state of arrested decay. Yet despite its silence, Bodie is anything but empty. The wind howls through broken windows, carrying with it the faint clang of mining tools, as if the town's former residents still toil beneath the earth. Visitors often report hearing footsteps behind them on the dusty paths, turning to find no one there. Some say phantom children play in the streets, their laughter drifting through the dry mountain air, vanishing as suddenly as it comes. The most famous tale of Bodie, however, is its curse. Legend warns that anyone who dares to steal even a single item from the town will suffer misfortune until it is returned. Park rangers regularly receive packages from around the world containing old nails, stones, and artifacts, each accompanied by letters begging forgiveness. The stories are always the same, tales of accidents, illnesses, and broken lives that followed soon after the theft. Inside the old church, visitors claim to see shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, or hear the faint sound of a hymn echoing against the warped wooden walls. In one of the saloons, glasses clink together though no hands hold them. Some tourists have taken photographs that reveal faces staring back at them from windows, long after the last resident left. Bodie is a town that refuses to die. The spirits of miners, gamblers, and families remain tethered to the land, restless, unwilling to move on. It is as though the earth itself remembers their sweat, their greed, their despair, and holds it forever in place. Those who visit describe an unease that lingers long after they leave, a feeling that something from Bodie has followed them home, watching, waiting, reminding them that the past never truly stays buried. And while Bodie haunts the mountains, our final stop leads us back to the sea, where a massive vessel known as the Queen Mary floats in Long Beach, carrying with it tales of wartime deaths, drowned passengers, and spirits who still roam its steel halls. Number 10. California Theater, San Bernardino. The California Theater is an elegant landmark, a place where music once swelled, actors took their bows, and audiences applauded beneath glittering chandeliers. But behind its charm lies a story that refuses to fade. Many years ago, during a performance that filled the theater with excitement, a beloved entertainer took to the stage. His voice soared, the audience hung on every word, when suddenly he clutched his chest, staggered, and collapsed before the curtain could fall. The performer died of a heart attack mid-show, his last breath echoing into the hushed silence of the crowd. Ever since, the theater has never been the same. Visitors and staff whisper of footsteps on the stage long after it is empty. Actors rehearsing alone hear a man's voice singing softly from the wings, the sound carrying from nowhere and everywhere at once. Ushers claim to feel a cold draft in the balcony, as though someone unseen still sits and waits for a show that will never begin again. Backstage is worse. Stagehands report objects moving on their own, ropes swaying without cause, and dressing room mirrors fogging over with words scratched faintly across the glass. Some insist they have seen the outline of a man in costume walking confidently across the boards, only to vanish when the spotlight finds him. The most unsettling accounts come during live performances. A faint figure has been spotted standing in the shadows, clapping politely at the end of an act, while the living audience remains silent. Actors often speak of a strange energy on stage, as though an unseen partner is performing beside them. The California Theater remains a jewel of San Bernardino, but to those who know its history, it is also a place where life and death overlap, where one man's final performance continues night after night. The ghost of the fallen performer lingers, bound forever to the theater he once loved, ensuring the show goes on, even when the curtain has long since closed. California is a place where dreams are made, and where nightmares are born. Behind the glimmer of Hollywood lights, behind the waves of San Diego, and within the silent bones of forgotten mining towns, the dead still speak. These are not just stories whispered in the dark. They are cries from the past, voices of those who never found peace. Think about Alcatraz, the island that was meant to keep prisoners locked away forever. Yet some souls never escaped, trapped in freezing cells, their shadows still pacing the corridors. Or the Winchester Mystery House, a maze designed to confuse spirits, but in truth, it became a prison for them. Every stairway that leads nowhere, every door that opens to a wall, feels like a reminder that Sarah Winchester herself was haunted until her dying breath. Then there is the Cecil Hotel. Its walls carry more than dust and age. They carry the weight of countless tragedies. Some say the building itself is cursed, a magnet for darkness, a place where even the living are pulled toward despair. If you walk its halls, do not be surprised if you feel eyes on you, watching from doorways that should be empty. And who could forget Bodie, the ghost town locked in a strange silence? Visitors take home more than photographs. Many report an invisible curse that follows them if they dare steal even a pebble. Letters are sent back to the museum every year, filled with apologies as if the dead miners demand their offerings returned. Bodie is not just abandoned. It is alive in its own way with a spirit that does not forgive. These are the truths of California, truths that hide behind sunsets and palm trees. Some may dismiss them as legend. Some may laugh and say it is all imagination. But the ones who have stood in a hallway where the air turns icy cold, the ones who have heard footsteps following them though they were alone, the ones who have seen a reflection in the mirror that was not their own, they know better. Now it comes to you. Would you dare to walk the halls of the Whaley House at night, knowing the family that built it never left? Would you book a room at the Hollywood Roosevelt, hoping Marilyn Monroe's face does not stare back at you through the glass? Would you test your courage at Preston Castle, listening for the screams of boys who were never set free? The Golden State promises beauty and wonder, but its shadows hold despair and mystery. Every city has its ghosts, every road has its curse, every theater has its final bow. Perhaps the scariest part is this: the ghosts you fear may not be trapped in California's landmarks at all. They may be with you now, silent, unseen, waiting for the moment you notice the chill in the room. If you enjoyed exploring the darker side of California, do not forget to like this video, subscribe for more haunted journeys, and share your own ghost stories in the comments. Which of these haunted places would you dare to face, and which one will haunt your dreams tonight? Until we meet again, remember this: ghosts do not only live in history. They live in memories, they live in places, and sometimes they live in you.